From trade to territory is our new topic that we are going to cover today. So the chapter is about the Britishers, how they came for the trade purpose and later on annexed Indian kingdom. So let us start. How the East India Company came to India. In 1600, Queen Elizabeth I gave the East India Company a charter, that is the right to trade with the East Asia. This meant only this company could trade with India and other eastern countries on behalf of Britain. So, only East India Company is going to do the trade with the eastern countries on behalf of Britain. The company came to Surat and got permission from the Mughal Emperor Jahangir to trade. So, in this way, they entered India for the trade purpose. However, other European countries like the Portuguese, Dutch, and French were already trading in India. The British had to fight and defeat them to become dominant. An example was they defeated the French in Carnatic War in South India. So when the East India Company landed in India, they found that other European countries are also doing the business here. Among them were the Portuguese, Dutch, and French. Now, these Britishers are not happy with this. They want to be dominant here in the business. So they begin with the fight with these European countries, and the famous Carnatic War that was between the French and British in South India was very much famous. The company was not happy with just trade, it wanted control over land and revenue. Now, these Britishers, they just defeated Portuguese, Dutch and French. Now they are not happy with the just trade in India. They want to control the land and the revenue of India also. They began interfering in Indian politics and supported certain rulers to gain favors and territories. The East India Company came to India to trade, but over time, using war, diplomacy, and politics, it turned into the ruling power in large parts of India. Okay, so this is the entrance of East India Company to India. Next, so East India Company began to trade in Bengal. So, West Bengal was one of the richest provinces of India in the 1700s, that is full of resources like the silk was there, cotton, indigo, rice and spices. So West Bengal was very much rich in these resources. The East India Company got permission to trade in Bengal from the Mughal Emperor and set up factories, that is the trading post, in places like Kasim Bazar and Calcutta. The company wanted to increase profit to avoid paying taxes on their goods, to build forts and armies to protect their trade. Now they are doing the trade in Bengal and they wanted to increase their profit also to avoid the paying tax. Now they don't want to pay the tax to the Indian ruler. But this made the Nawab of Bengal angry and they felt the company was becoming too powerful and breaking rules. So now they want to avoid paying taxes and the Nawab of Bengal was very much angry with this from the Britishers. Okay, so this is the beginning of trade in Bengal. Now how trade led to battles. Now how they were doing the trade and then later on fight with Indians also. The company fortified Calcutta without the Nawab permission. So this the British India Company, what did they do? They just fortified at the Calcutta without the Nawab permission. British traders refused to pay taxes and apart from it, they also refused to pay taxes to the Nawab of Bengal. They gave bribes and gifts to Indian officials to get their way and they begin to give bribery to the Indian rulers and the officials to just their work should be done, right? The Nawab, especially Siraj-ud-Dowla, opposed this and wanted to control the company's growing influence. So the Nawab of Bengal, Siraj-ud-Dowla, was not happy with this and he wanted to control the company's growing influence. He became aware that Britishers are not doing good things. So Siraj-ud-Dowla captured the British factory in Calcutta in 1756. The British responded by sending troops under Robert Clive and this led to the Battle of Plassey in 1757. So in this way the trade led to the battles and the Battle of Plassey is very much famous in the year 1757. So the Battle of Plassey fought between Siraj-ud-Dowla, the Nawab of Bengal versus the British East India Company that is led by Robert Clive. The British secretary made a deal with Mir Jafar, Siraj army commander. Now they just give bribe to the Mir Jafar, that is the Siraj-ud-Dowla army commander. He just bribed them. These Britishers bribed them. Mir Jafar agreed to betray Siraj during the battle in return for being made Nawab. So he agreed that he is going to betray Siraj-ud-Dowla. Instead of that, he wanted to become the Nawab of Bengal. During the battle, Mir Jafar withheld his troops, leading to Siraj's defeat. So he did not order his army to just fight with Britishers, and as a result, Siraj-ud-Dowla defeated the battle. Siraj-ud-Dowla was captured and killed. Mir Jafar became the Nawab, but he was controlled by the British. The East India Company now started ruling Bengal indirectly. So see, this is the Battle of Plassey, 1757. It is very much famous also. So in this way, the East India Company now started to ruling Bengal indirectly in the form of Mir Jafar, because they have made the Mir Jafar the Nawab, isn't it? And now they are controlling him. Now the Battle of Buxar, that is in the year 1764. When Mir Jafar did not meet British expectation, they replaced him with Mir Qasim. So now Mir Jafar has been changed and Mir Qasim became the Nawab of Bengal. Mir Qasim tried to act independently and stop giving special trade privileges to the company. So Mir Qasim was not happy with the Britishers, he wanted to act independently. So he stopped giving special treatment and privileges to the East India Company. He attacked British officials and joined hands with Soja-ud-Dowla and Shah Alam II to defeat the company. The British army defeated them combinedly at the Indian forces at Buxar. So there was a fight between Mir Qasim, Soja-ud-Dowla and Shah Alam II in the one side, and the other side was East India Company, and it was fought in the Buxar. So that's why this Battle of Buxar is also very much famous. However, these three were defeated by this. After the Britishers win in this Battle of Buxar, the Mughal Emperor Shah Alam II gave the company the Diwani rights, that is the right to collect revenue from the Bengal, Bihar and Orissa. Okay, now they have just given the right, okay, you just collect the revenue from Bengal, Bihar and Orissa. Now Indian rulers became dependent or powerless. Okay. Company officials become nabobs. So nabob was a term used for company officials who became very rich in India and returned to Britain with great wealth and luxury. They took bribe, gifts and revenue from the Indian rulers. So those officials who are becoming rich in India, and as a return when they returned to Britain, they were having great wealth and luxury. They were known as nabobs in Britain. Some became corrupt, using their position to loot money and property. These British officials. People in Britain were shocked by the luxury and corruption of these officials, and this led to the criticism of the company, and the British government started interfering in the company's rule. So now in the Britain, they came to know that these British officials are just enjoying luxuries and wealth, taking bribes, and this led to the criticism of the company also, and now the British government started to interfere in the company's rule in India. Now company rule expand. The East India Company from 1757 to 1857 used a variety of political, economic and diplomatic methods to extend its influence before annexing an Indian kingdom. The subsidiary alliance was a policy introduced by Lord Wellesley, the Governor General of India, in the year 1798 to 1805, to bring Indian princely states under British control without directly fighting wars. So the Britishers began to do some diplomatic works, and as a result they begin to annex the kingdom. Subsidiary alliance was one of them. So under this system, Indian rulers had to keep British troops, a subsidiary force, in their kingdom. They have to pay for the maintenance of this army, and also have to accept a British resident official in their court to control their decision. If they fail to follow these rules or pay, their kingdom could be taken over. See how the Britishers were very much cunning. They have just used a variety of techniques like the diplomatic method to extend its influence before annexing Indian kingdom, and they were very much successful in this also, right? So this is about the subsidiary alliance. Next, Tipu Sultan and the Mysore War. Tipu Sultan, also known as the Tiger of Mysore, was one of the strongest opponents of British expansion in South India. He ruled the kingdom of Mysore and modernized his army. He resisted the British in the Anglo-Mysore War that goes on 1767 to 69, 1780 to 84, 1790 to 92 and last 1799. Tipu allied with the French and used modern weaponry. He was very much smart ruler. In 1799, during the Fourth Anglo-Mysore War, Tipu Sultan was killed and the British took control of Mysore. So after fighting this Fourth Anglo-Mysore War, at last Tipu Sultan died and the Britishers annexed this Mysore also. This was a significant victory that weakened resistance in southern India. Now the Britishers are annexing the territory. Now war with the Marathas. The British also clashed with the Marathas who controls large part of central and western India. There were three Anglo-Maratha wars. First was 1775 to 82 that ended in stalemate. Second was 1803 to 1805. The British defeated the key Maratha leaders. And third 1817 to 19 ended Maratha power completely. So after this war, the British took control of large part of western and central India, ending Maratha dominance. So in the south also they begin to capture this one, and now in the central and western India is also captured by the Britishers till 1819. The claim of paramountcy. So this was a British policy that justified their dominance over Indian state. Now again one more policy. The British claimed that they were the paramount power, meaning they were the highest authority in India. Even though Indian rulers governed their territories, the British claimed the right to intervene in their affairs. So even though the Indian rulers are ruling, now these Britishers think themselves that they are the higher authority, now they have the right to interfere in their affairs. This policy allowed the British to annex states, remove kings and control succession. See how this variety of political, economic and diplomatic method they are using and just annexing the Indian kingdoms. A famous example is the doctrine of lapse, under which the British annexed states where the ruler died without a biological male heir. So if doctrine of lapse is also very much famous, that is one of the policy through which they just gain control of the Indian kingdom. Now what is doctrine of lapse? Let us see. So doctrine of lapse. The doctrine of lapse was a British policy introduced by Lord Dalhousie, the Governor General of India, in the year 1848 to 1856. If an Indian ruler died without a biological male heir, it means he don't have any son, then his kingdom would be annexed by the British East India Company. Adopted sons were not accepted as the legal heir under the doctrine, though this was against Indian territory. It means biological son should be there. So if the ruler died, then if he don't have any biological son, then that will be annexed by the Britishers. So the main purpose was to expand British territory without going to war. So the main purpose of this policy was to expand the British territory without getting into the war. And through this doctrine of lapse, they were successful in annexing Satara in 1848, Jhansi that in 1854 led to Rani Lakshmibai rebellion later, then Nagpur 1853 and Awadh 1856 that is annexed on ground of misgovernance. Okay. So due to doctrine of lapse, what happens? Satara, Jhansi and Nagpur were just captured by the Britishers. It means these rulers, they don't have their biological son. And Awadh was annexed on ground of misgovernance, right? So see, in this way, the Britishers are through this doctrine of lapse and the policies annex Indian states, right? Now setting up a new administration. Now almost they have annexed so many kingdoms, they are setting up a new administration. As the British gained control over more territories, they set up centralized system of administration. Okay, so they are just doing systematic administrative system. Now what are they? Let us see. Governor General, head of the British administration in India, later called Viceroy after 1858. So they begin to call them the Governor General, that is the head of the British administration in India. Okay. Second, District Collector, manage district, collect revenue, maintain law and order. Laws and policies. British laws were introduced and courts were established using English laws. Revenue system. Permanent settlement in Bengal, zamindars collected fixed revenue, and ryotry and mahalwadi in other regions, collected directly from peasants or the village group. So they have just appointed and are just implementing all these laws and policies in different departments. Education and infrastructure. Western style education was promoted and railway, telegraph and postal services were introduced. Okay. So this is the setting of a new administration in India, that is the Governor General, District Collector, laws and policies, revenue system, and then education and infrastructure. Now let us see about their army also, the company army. The East India Company maintained a powerful army to protect its territory and expand its rule. Okay. Sepoy, that is the Indian soldiers recruited in large numbers, they form the majority of the army. That is, in the British, they are just recruiting Indian soldiers. British officers commanded the army and had full control over Indian sepoys. So, British officers were commanding them, and these Indian soldiers were under the control of British officers. Divided structure. The army was divided into infantry, cavalry, and artillery. Discipline and loyalty. Strict discipline was enforced. Sepoy had to follow British rule and culture, often against their own tradition. As a result, we see discontent also, that is, they were giving a very poor payment and unequal treatment as compared to the Britishers. Cultural insensitivity was also seen, that is the use of animal fat in cartridges that led to resentment, and dissatisfaction played a major role in the revolt of 1857, that is the first war of independence. Okay, so this is the company army. Finally, in the end, the company transformed from the traders to rulers, laying the foundation for British colonial rule in India. This chapter shows how political control was gained step by step, often through force and manipulation, not just trade. So this is the whole story, that is from the trade to territory. I hope this chapter is clear to you. I have just tried to cover each and every topic from the chapter also. So thank you for watching until the end. This much for today.